I want to talk about your solo podcast journey because this is where people get uncomfortable. And we're just going to talk about like solo podcasting. It's an uncomfortable thing. It's not even for someone who, like you said, you have a performing background. You've been on stage, I'm sure, in front of hundreds of people, and it's still so awkward to be in a room by yourself with just a microphone or a camera. So let's talk about what that journey's looked like for you.
Terrible. It's I love it. I love solo podcasting now. It's one of my favorite things to do. But my gosh, it was not at the beginning. And my very first episode, again, a lot of it's not there anymore because of copyright. I did a silly thing, which was I didn't know. Again, you live and learn, and then you have to realize that. But the first episode was me. Like I had my headphones in from an iPhone, the old ones, and I have a beard, so it was scratching on my beard. It was terrible. And it was so awkward. And it was about 35 minutes long, of which 20 minutes of it I was telling you about, and it's like, just you wait, because what's coming today is going to be very good. But let me just tell you a little bit about me first, but trust me. And then what was coming was a blog that I found, and I was just reading it. It was terrible. It was terrible. And I actually listened to it a couple of months ago because it was on like listen notes or something. With the ones they don't delete them. For some reason, they just keep them. Everywhere else is there. And I was like, I can't believe that I did this. But I'm so glad I pushed through. But it is very awkward and it is very uncomfortable, I think, as a solo podcaster, because I think there's two types of people. It'd be interesting to hear your take. First one is people who are really uncomfortable. So they sound uncomfortable. And it's like, oh, this is painful to listen to, which is fine, by the way. You've got to keep pushing through. Or there's the other type of person, which was definitely me, thinks they're not uncomfortable to listen to, but they are. And so they're very overconfident. And actually, they're making a 40-minute podcast because they've got enough to say. And actually, it probably could have been done in about 5 minutes. So, yeah, it's not fun, but it is amazing now. Like, I love it. It's like a diary now.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's so funny. And I love to hear your two different types because both people are uncomfortable in either scenario. They're uncomfortable. I feel like I would definitely fall into the second category where it's kind of like that fake it till you make it, but then you're talking. And while you're talking, you have this loop in your head. Like, what is the point of what is actually coming out of your mouth? Like, what are you trying to say? You're just speaking. You're talking to yourself. You're not making sense. Like, bring this home, like land the plane, because no one even knows what you're talking about anymore. So just, is there a way for you just to stop talking and be done with it?
The first one, it was because I originally got in by personal brand consulting originally. And I'm like, this is the personal brand. It was called the Personal Branding Secrets Podcast. Did very well at the beginning, but I have no idea why, because the first episode, I'm like, I don't know anything about personal branding. Like, I'm supposed to be this thought leader. And because I'm nervous, I was like, I don't really know anything about it. Nothing at all. I'm going to bring you on this journey with me, which is fine. But I was pitching myself as the expert. I was saying to people, go and listen to the show if you want to work with me. The first thing I say in the first 5 minutes is, I don't really know what I'm talking about. So don't it's not, but it's funny, but it does evolve. And I think pushing through those pain points, and that's what I said about I loved your video, it was real. That was what I found. And I think this hopefully is, I think it might be why you made those videos is solo podcasts are amazing. Like amazing. And they're amazing for lead gen as businesses. They're amazing for content for YouTube, for example. They're amazing for everything. And but there was like no one talking about it. And so like I'd stumbled across, I think it was Rachel Peterson. And hers was very, very good. So I listened to that. I was like, and she was the first person I'd ever heard who'd done a solo podcast. And I was like, is this even a thing? Oh, okay. Then if this is a thing, then, and I ran up, it wasn't my first podcast. It was my second podcast. So I'd run up with this, and that came about because I was like, you might feel this. I was bringing guests on the show. This can sound awful. I was bringing people on the show because they were, and I knew more than they did. And I was like, this is really bad. Like, I don't really know, like, why am I not, and I'm not gonna correct them, but I was like, I need to step in front of this. Why am I not doing it? And that was where the solo thing, I thought, I can't get people to interview me every week. So what do we do? So yeah, it's a brilliant tool, I think.
Yeah. And I think too that a lot of people that do okay, so there's a comfortability in solo podcasting, and it takes you a second to get there. It's not some even people that can talk on a stage in front of thousands of people, like, it takes a second to get there, and I think that we often use interviews as a crutch because we do. We wanna do it on our own, or we have those thoughts of, "Man, I could totally just run with this conversation by myself," but it's gonna be awkward. It's gonna be hard. Like it's easy. Like what we're doing right now, what Ash and I are doing. I can see him. He can see me. We can read off of each other, and we're just talking, y'all. We're just having a conversation. Like we're having coffee together, and it's easier. But whenever you're stepping behind the mic by yourself, like it's just there's all these feelings of like, oh, I can just stop whenever I want to. And so people will often stop and start. And then the editing process is a mess if you do that too. So it's just like, it's a lot more stressful until you can figure it out on your own. But I'm so glad that you said that you love it and it's really powerful. Do you know, have you gotten any feedback from your audience? Like, do they like the way that you talk to them? Like it's more relatable, or do you teach? Like, tell me more about your solo style.
So what? Yeah, how it started. I then moved. I then started a whole new show, and what it was I had a guy come on the show, and he said, who's a podcaster here in the UK, and he said, you need to be careful interviewing too many people if you're trying to generate leads from this. He said, because you're spotlighting all these other people and you're not talking to them. So I was like, okay. So I went back to the drawing board and I set up a new show, and I didn't do any interviews. That's actually like, I just did literally a solo show, and I was like, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to go through the uncomfortable phase again, and I'm going to try it. It was weird because that's the one that put me in the charts over here. And that's the one, if I'm honest with you, that kickstarted my entire career, because I just went back to my days as a mortgage broker making videos on that. That was literally what I thought. I've done this before. It's my wife said, she said, you've done it before, you can do it again. And I loved it, and the people, and I built I made some mistakes, and I'm sure we'll talk about those as we go through, but in regards to like community and building and stuff. But my audience, they were like soaking it like a sponge. They were literally like, and I'm very into psychology and structure. I'm very deep. I'm very into like deep level learning as opposed to just surface level. So I was like, well, this podcast it's going to get quite really deep into behavioral economics and things like that. And they just kept wanting more and more and more. I did it every day. I did it every single day, 7 days a week, and I would live stream it. So I would live stream it to all my platforms. And I did it for like a year, and it was amazing. Like, it was so good. But what I started to realize, I started to lean into, I got more confident that I was a performer. So I started being better tonality and funny, and not so much like making silly noises in regards to like the way my voice was sounding. And then also having, I loved a lot of YouTubers back in the day. And I was thinking, like, you've got to be, I remember as a performer, there was that idea of fully commit, if you're fully over the top. And I wanted to be this larger than life character, not false, just I'm an eccentric guy from a very weird upbringing. And so instead of, I wanted to show the world who that really was. And it worked, and it really worked. But then it was a little bit of success. I'm sure you'll know this, Crystal, a little bit of success is a bad thing, because then it muddied the waters again. And it's just a constant, I say to people all the time, it's just a constant repeat, recalibrate, get back. You think you've sorted it. You think everything's flying to the races. And I remember someone says to me, just when you think you've sorted it, something comes along and knocks it out. So